Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 2017 AMJ Campbell Nova Scotia Junior Curling Championships here on Bell 5 TV1. My name is Dan Hobson, joined alongside here by Slade Atopsa. We have Kayla Jones and Kaylee Nodding here in this matchup. Both of these teams have 3 wins so far. Of course, they had a head-to-head matchup earlier in the draw, and it was going the way of Nodding but after 4 ends of play, but a big steal of 3 there by Jones, and then she got a score of 6 and put that one away, 10-3 the final. So this is the second time these two teams have met. And as I said, they both have 3 wins, and Nodding is at 3-1, Jones at 3-0. So what are your thoughts here on this one here? What does basically Nodding have to do to prevent this one from getting away from her like it did last previous matchup?
Well, I think just more of the same, how they played at the beginning of that game. They had, I was watching I wasn't commentating, but I was doing the one end, or watching the one end where they gave up the 3. I think that was the important one, and they just didn't clear things up enough. They had last rock, really didn't have a shot. So yeah, just leave your skip a shot. That's kind of what this game is all about at the end of the day. Is, you know, there's a lot of setup, and then you want to have something to score, whether it be 1 or more than 1. But certainly you don't want to have your skip in a position where they're facing a number of rocks. So.
And it's just Nodding has the hammer here and in number 1, and she's throwing the yellow stones. And this is their lead, Carrie Wellman. So we'll run down the team of Kaylee Nodding, coached by Scott Nodding out of the Bridgewater Curling Club. As we take a look at Wellman, the lead. The second is Alexis Chason. Third, Caitlin Nodding, and skip Kaylee Nodding. As we take a look at Caitlin Jones running down her team, as we get ready to see the lead, Lindsay Burgess throw here, and the second is Carly Burgess. Kristen Clark is the third, skipped, as we mentioned, by Caitlin Jones, and their coach is Andrew Atherton, coach from, the Halifax Curling Club, number 1 ranked team in the Nova Scotia Junior Curling standings. And
oh, they sure are. They play in a lot of women's spiels and are very competitive. I mean, 2 are coming back as defending champions and actually junior world champions, so there's no lack of experience on this team, that's for sure. And they just need to keep doing more of the same. They're just outplaying their opponents every game.
And missed there on a flash as they're trying to go after that yellow stone belonging to Nodding. So see if Nodding can get things going here. Probably looking to get a good score of 2. Definitely do not want to take 1 and then give up hammer into the second. So looking pretty good right now. Probably try to maybe split the rings or maybe put up another corner guard as we wait to see. This one sort of starting to slow down, but you just see the front end of Chason and Nodding working hard here, and they're dragging it right to the rings and have split them to lie 2.
That's a nice shot. It's so early in the end to sit 2. It's really hard to. You could guard that one over on the side, which I actually saw in an earlier game, and I thought it was a pretty good call. It's hard to defend your 2 points and protect them in the rings when the other team has all these options and chances to get the stones closer together and make some double takeouts. So it'll be hard, but we'll see how Nodding can do it.
Nose hit and a little bit of roll here by Carly Burgess. And right away, Nodding actually won her second. Alexis Chason to make a play on the one just thrown by Carly. And of course, we remind everybody that in between the first and second ends, we're going to have one of the tournament organizers, Karen Skiffington, is going to come in. It had a little bit of an issue last night at the 8 o'clock draw, and they have asked for some airtime to talk about that issue, so we're gladly obliged, and she will join us here sometime throughout the broadcast to discuss it. Nose hit to lie 2 here for Nodding. Other game. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, you can see Caitlin Jones putting the broom down for Carly there on the other side of the rock, and so she'll get more of a roll this way if she hits it anywhere on the high side, which is the broom side or the center line side here.
You see lots of rotation on this one, and going to maybe get a little bit of a kiss on the other one.
Really, really good shot. Those doubles are not easy. And
yeah, they came
had to hit that one a little bit thinner, actually. Went over the top, but they were sweeping to make it curl. I think Caitlin was looking for the roll, but we didn't realize she could have made the double there.
Other games taking place here. we have Sheet B, Stephanie Carson, taking on Callie Moore. And that should be a pretty good matchup. Callie Moore out of the CFB Curling Club, taking on, of course, Callie Moore. And also Isabel Ladisor versus Calissa Daly. Calissa Daly out of the Halifax Curling Club.
And all those other 4 teams are in the C bracket for this tournament. There's 3 qualifying spots, A, B, and C. So today we're doing the B, and Jones has already captured the A. And the way this tournament works is a triple knockout. So even if you win, let's say different teams win all 3, any team has to be beaten 3 times to be out. So you may see, if Notting takes this one and someone else takes the third, then we're going to have a full playoff. But if Jones, happens to take all 3 playoff spots, they win. They don't have to play anyone else.
Team Carson out of the Windsor Curling Club taking on Moore, and Ladisor here from the Lakeshore Curling Club. And of course, as we mentioned, taking on Calissa Daly from the Halifax Curling Club. So we'll keep you up to date on scores as the morning moves on. Speaking of moving on, we're moving on here to Third Rocks. Caitlin Notting, pardon me. Couple of misses here by the Jones rink early, and it's really set it up, as you said, early to have 2 rocks in the house, and it's pretty well been status quo, stayed that way since. Once again, lying 2.
Yeah, they have been doing a very good job. There was that one chance that Carly had for the double, just went over the top. So those 2 yellows couldn't get too much further apart, could they?
Playing what will be her last year in juniors, Kristen Clark. Says she's moving on to, of course, the women's championships next year. Women's play. Nose hit. She's Notting pretty happy right now just to be, going shot for shot, and so she'll just get rid of the one here just thrown there by Clark.
I think Kristen would be a pretty good pickup for any team.
Lots of national and international experience. That's a really good point on that. You can see the front end here. Wellman and Chason working hard, trying to hold the line to keep this one. And they do, and they're going to roll. And they were trying to keep it to get the nose hit, and they'll roll out. And all of a sudden, there was the 2 opportunity here for Notting here, and in number 1 has probably gone by the wayside for the meantime.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, it doesn't take much. Sometimes it's the other team that makes a double, and sometimes it's your team that misses, but you only need 1 miss, and then the other team is only looking at 1 yellow still.
Skip rocks as we take a look at Caitlin Jones. Says that this is their 5th province that she's lived in, so she's pretty well halfway there, living in every province in Canada.
She's exactly halfway there.
Yeah. Both Burgess ladies going hard here on this one. Nose hit.
And that was a spot there. We saw Lindsay miss earlier. I think Lindsay just has a little more of a pop on her release. This is the first time I've seen Sheet D in a feature game, so I'm a little bit excited to see if we have our other Sheet C. There's some straight spots in it. I expect this does as well. Usually it's a little straighter out to the wings.
Yesterday in the men's draw on this sheet, there was, of course, LaFour versus Sweeney, and they were having difficulties. Things were over curl and coming up light. So far, ladies seem to be getting the knack of the ice, and that was definitely not what the doctor ordered there for Notting as she gets the hit and roll out. So at one time setting 2, blank house. So now all of a sudden the possibility of 2 is now hopefully in their minds now trying to blank here in number 1. that's the thing with this Caitlin Jones team. Even though they may make a slight mistake, they're so good at forcing the issues that you force their opposition to make a mistake, and all of a sudden, they pounce on it when they're doing offense and when they're defense. They just capitalize on it. Now Jones will just probably try to put it here and basically see what Kaylee Notting can do. Say, hit me with your best shot, Pat Benatar song here. As we're in the Skip Rocks here at hit number 1.
Kaylee didn't want to roll out on her last stone there. Just maybe a little straighter out in the wings, and she was following Caitlin down, and I think they must throw a little bit differently. So Caitlin able to put that one right on the button. That's always the goal, is somewhere on the center line and make it harder for your opponent to blank.
Taking a look at some of the other games, as I mentioned, Stephanie Carson, we mentioned her out of the Windsor Curling Club, taking on Callie Moore. Still so far no score yet. Of course, they're still playing in number 1. And Isabel Ladouceur and Calissa Daly, still no score to report there in that one. Wellman and Chase on. And there's the hit and the rollout.
I don't know if that's the way they were calling it, but they'll take it. That's a blank there.
Yeah, blank there as they're in the last rock there in the first end. So they'll carry it over in to end number 2. And of course, as promised, we're joined here by Karen Skiffington. Of course, she's one of the championship organizers. Good morning. How are things right now?
Good morning. It was a little rushed here last night as we had to reschedule this draw to this morning. Unfortunately, we had some mechanical issues with our brine pump. Great staff here at the Sackville Stadium to help us get us back on track so quickly overnight. And as you can see, our ice conditions haven't been affected this morning. We may have seen that a bit last night in hindsight in the men's draw. But the brine pump is all fixed up. We've got great ice again. Our staff worked to get it right back up to snuff here today.
So, of course, the schedule online at nscurl.com. Just click on the events and you can find out when the times are. So, of course, this has changed the schedule just a slight bit, correct?
Correct. We've moved everything up ahead one draw per se. The last night's draw is now this morning at 9 a.m. Our 2:30 draw will go as scheduled. However, it will be the scheduled morning games. So we'll see 4 games this afternoon. Of course, TV1 will be broadcasting 2 of those games, which is fantastic. And tomorrow we'll have an additional draw if needed, as Selena was saying, with the triple knockout. Some of the games are if necessary, so if necessary, we will have a final tomorrow at 2 p.m.
All right, that's perfect. Karen, thanks for joining in and addressing that issue. And once again, hats off to the staff here for getting the ice conditions to be playable again after that slight hiccup, I guess you could say now.
Yes, and there are volunteers that made all the calls out to the teams and got all the timers rescheduled for today in the additional draws. Great shout out to all of them for their flexibility and their understanding.
Well, thanks once again. The tournament has gone very well, and let's hope that's the only hiccup the rest of the way leading up to the, of course, closing ceremonies and the championship presentation.
Yes, thank you very much, Dan.
Thanks, Karen. Karen Skiffington there from the... So that was Karen Skiffington there from the Lakeshore Curling Club addressing the issues from last night. So we thank her for her time. And no score here in end number 2. Notting his hammer, throwing the yellow stones. And it was looking good for Notting to get 2. But I'll tell you, defending champions, the reason why they're defending champions, so they can still all of a sudden be maybe in a little bit of a pickle and all of a sudden find their way out of it, Selena. And that's what they did. And they forced Notting to blank end number 1.
Yeah, exactly. And here in 2, we saw the center guard go up. So sometimes this week I've been seeing teams play at couple ends clean, but Caitlin's trying to force the issue a bit here. She put up the center guard. And then we had the come around attempt from Carrie. She was just heavy and ran through the rings, and then a little bit of a heavy draw, but it's not as bad when you're the team without hammer for your rock to go a bit heavy. And then Carey's second attempt there, we see just wrecked on the guard and obviously was a little bit light. Wasn't going to make it to the rings. So advantage Team Jones really early on in this end, and that's just with a couple misses on the front end stones.
Updating the scores from the other sheet. Sheet E, Isabel Ladasor had a single point, and in number 1, she leads 1-0 as they play 2. And over on sheet B, Callie Moore has a point over Stephanie Carson. 1-0 there. Stephanie Carson out of the Windsor Curling Club and Callie Moore out of the CFB Curling Club. Second ranked in the Nova Scotia Junior Curling Provincial Rankings. As we focus our main attraction game, Jones nodding in 2.
And you can see that beautiful stone there from Carly Burgess. Just buried it right behind the center guard on the top 4. Sit 2, guarded. There's not many choices for Team Nodding. They have to peel here.
Gonna try to get that blue. And they'll spill. And trying to get it out, nodding the rest of the way. And on that camera angle, looks like out. But of course, the previous one was also a little bit deceptive too. So we'll say lying 1 right now is Jones there.
Yeah, I was thinking they were calling the peel, but it might have been the run back because they were calling the ice for the run back. The only problem I see with that is the guard was so nicely covering the shot stone that if you're to make the run back, you're going to leave your shooter out there. It's better to make sometimes those run backs when you're when there's an offset and you don't leave the guard out front, because Carly's just going to try and loop another one around here.
Coming around those yellow guards and sticks it to bury it. Half rock, you can see there. Line 2. Jones with some pressure here in 2.
That's a really nice shot again. That's 2 100%ers for Carly, burying them on the 4-foot around the center guard. The other issue with the run back on this kind of shot is if you don't stick it and your shooter stays out front, which Alexis is going to get away with that there. Her shooter rolled away. But if you leave your shooter out front and you don't make the run back, then you're just guarding their stone, and it's even worse. So I kind of like the peel there, but I feel like a broken record all week. I've been saying I like a peel.
Well, you see the same you're talking about, of course, you're repeating. It seems like sometimes that's what happens, is you get in that situation where that's what they should be doing. So as we take a look here at Clark here in number 2.
I don't think Team Jones needs to bring this one in the rings. Caitlin's indicating top 12, but I think that gives you a chance to have Team Nodding make a double and stick the shooter in the rings. So I think this one is better if it's tight to the rings, maybe top 12. Needs to stop for line though, and that's a nice shot.
Of course, if we like to be interactive here at Bell 5 TV1's online streaming coverage of the Curling Championships or any sporting event. So if you want to reach out to us during the broadcast, I'm at Dan Hobson 12. That's at DANHOBSON 12. And John Simon, of course, is a broadcast colleague, says glad to see the ice back in good conditions, ready to go with today's play. So say hi to John this morning. Of course, he'll be in later on this afternoon for some coverage. Kaylee Nodding here. Goes through the middle, removes the blue stone, just thrown.
It's
and
a nice
exposes
throw.
one there right in the 4-foot area.
Just missed all the blues that are in the rings and around the rings.
That's what's so nice about this sort of tournament format. Of course, we mentioned the teams faced each other earlier in the draw, of course, and it was the score doesn't really indicate how well and how close that game really was after 4 ends of play. So
No, not at all. This is definitely, a struggle end for Team Nodding. It's really hard when you just don't get a stone in the rings or any good rock positioning early. So that's the struggle that you're going to see, I think, through the rest of this end as Team Jones keeps making these nice cards.
The brushing there by both Burgess ladies there and have buried that one that's in the 4-foot area there completely. So now, of course, Notting saying, well, what do you see there down by the hack? And as I say, they're playing with fire. 2 already here for Jones here in the second.
You really do have to clean things up and get rid of that guard. She doesn't have much of a choice. It's you kind of have to wait for a little bit of a miss on the guard, and maybe that tight one on the previous shot was the best chance, and they actually just missed that little run back.
They're trying to hold the line here as Wellman and chase on. Nice piece of work there. It looked like it was starting to overcurl, and they had to go to keep the line and did. Get the Clark stone removed. The shooter will go as well for Notting. So once again, lying 2 there without hammer is Jones.
So just replace the guard. It's not too complicated for Team Jones. Kaylee's probably thinking about what she's going to have left. There's only 2 stones remaining for each team there.
Skip rocks here in end 2. Caitlin Jones, the Dalhousie Bachelor of Arts student.
So that's a good, the sweepers were noticed early. They said, you know what, we're to it. We're heavy. And they got that extra sweep just to keep the line there. They're trying to keep the line straight and line them up so the double wasn't there. But, so there you got the miss for Team Jones, just heavy on a guard, and double's certainly there. Don't think you need to worry. You were looking at not being able to score this end, so I don't think there's a great chance for 2. You can't make the double and roll behind the lone center guard that's just off the center line. But you can roll over to the wings and keep the 4-foot open for your single point.
And a team that's not afraid to throw the big up weight here. We've seen that pretty well covered most of their games so far, so they're not afraid to be aggressive and throw a heater here. Southpaw, Kaylee Notting here with the hammer and 2. Say pretty well gives it a big push there, does Kaylee Notting here.
Yeah, she has a really big extension.
Not much of a brush laid to it. Spills the both. Is the yellow going to stick around? No, it won't.
They really wanted to keep that shooter. That's too bad. Nicely thrown.
And Jones can bring this one to the rings here to lie 2, and then of course basically force Notting to draw for a single point here.
Yeah, the only thing, if that yellow thrown stone had stuck around for shot over on the side, Caitlin would have had to hit it. She's not going to leave a good chance for 2 available. So it's a little unfortunate for that to roll out. But for Team Jones now, yeah, loop 1. They're going to try and tuck this partially behind the guard so it can't be hit to be removed. And that just tightens the scoring area into the 4-foot. So above the tee line and partially behind the guard is the goal for this shot.
The Burgess ladies have been on and off pretty well since it came out of Jones's hands, and now will stop there in the 4-foot area to lie 2.
Perfect weight, just didn't have the line. So it is available for the hit, and there's a lot of room to roll. I think Kaylee will bring the weight down. We saw her last one thrown just a little bit further over than this, closer to where Caitlin's broom is. And it didn't curl up quite as much as they had hoped, so I suspect she'll bring the weight down a little bit just for the single, trying to not have as much momentum to let the shooter roll out. This is for a single.
Final stone for Kaylee Notting of the Bridgewater Curling Club. Facing 2 blue stones belonging to Jones. Defending champions of this event from last year. And hoping that will stick. I don't know. Could be.
And we got the spin back.
Get the spin back there, and they'll tap on it for the single point. As that was a little bit more intense than they were kind of hoping that would just stick around, and it, with that last little turd, came around to get their single point here. After 2 hits of play, Notting lead Jones 1-0, and pretty well similar to the way this game started is the way that things went in their matchup earlier in the draw. So looking around to see if there's any new scores to report there from the other games taking place, like on sheet B, Stephanie Carson, the Carson team of the Windsor Curling Club, 3rd ranked in the province, taking on Callie Moore. Callie Moore 2nd, so that should be a dandy of a competition so far. Still reading 1-0 there, Moore over Carson. Sheet E, Isabel Ladiseur, of course, this will be the first time that we'll see her. Of course, we'll be seeing her at the Scotties in a couple of weeks there in Dartmouth, taking on Calissa Daly. And right now, it is Ladiseur 1-0 as they are still playing the second end there. If we get any new scores to report, we'll pass them along to you as we are back underway with end number 3 of the 2017 AMJ Campbell Nova Scotia Junior Curling Championships here on Bell 5 TV1 alongside Celine and Thompson. My name is Dan Hobson. And our producer is Chuck Calder and the Bell 5 TV1 crew here at the Lakeshore Curling Club for these championships. We're getting to the nitty-gritty here, the last 2 days of competition. Both of these teams coming in with 3 wins, a 3-1 record here for Kaylee Notting and Caitlin Jones 3-0. And that one little blemish on the Notting record came as a result of Jones's 10-3 victory. Jones started off the draw here with a 9-4 win over Stephanie Carson. And of course, we mentioned about the Notting 10-3 win, and defeated Callie Moore yesterday 8-5. Got up 4-0, and Moore fought her way back, but Moore didn't have enough gas in the tank to put Caitlin Jones, get her a loss in that one. So Jones still remains 3-1, and Notting started off on fire, 10-4 win over Calissa Daly, and then 11-9. That was a high-scoring affair over Callie Moore. And a 7-5 win over Calissa Daly yesterday. So all of a sudden you're getting further into this competition. Teams are seeing each other for the second time, so there's definitely not the surprise factor. And of course, really not much of a surprise factor when they really play each other a lot during the bond spiels and cash spiels for the regular season.
No, these teams all know each other very well. They're the top teams in Nova Scotia for a reason, and play the circuit. Some of them are playing in women's spiels as well, and like you mentioned, with Isabel Ladiseur making it into the Scotties, they would have played in the Scotties playdowns like some junior teams. I think a few of these teams did, and you know, with no expectation of making it, they're playing at a level that they may not be at yet, and but what better experience to get you better than playing against teams that, you know, are probably going to beat you 99% of the time. And they got that last spot with, it was a pretty tight game up till the end, and the game they played, and hung on and made it.
Lindsay Burgess, one of the 2 new members from this team, from 18 years of age, curling out of the Halifax Curling Club, first-year Bachelor of Engineering student. And will be part of the Dalhousie team at the Atlantic University sport level. That was a solid team that they had last year. Of course, Kristen Clark was the skip of that team, and Kirsten Lynn, who plays for the Calissa Daly team, was the 3rd on that team. And if you think of some of the students, you know, curlers that are attending Dal, that would be one strong team that they'll be sending to the championships, which are going to be in Fredericton this year.
It's always interesting because everyone focuses on the, you know, their full team, these teams for the juniors, and then they switch everything up and play with each other for the universities.
Well, it's kind of funny. Of course, Matthew Manuel, his team of course, defending champions in the men's portion of this from last year. His third Cox was actually to skip a St. Mary's last year.
Exactly. They played against each other.
And then, of course, Manuel was actually the third, while Robert Mayhew was the skip last year, the team that finished second. They ran into a tough team from Memorial University last year, so they took the silver. We concentrate this one here in number 3 of the Junior Curling Championship between Jones and Notting.
Kaylee looks like she's not quite sure what to do. So they just got a miss out of Team Jones. Notting put up the center guard, and then a couple come-arounds, and a hit and roll, and then a nice little shot from Team Notting to sit shot. And then Jones tried the short little run back and just over-curled. But you don't have hammer. It's a little bit risky to hit that blue stone, which is why this is. You could guard. I think they're coming around on the outturn side. It's really early in the end to kind of guard and lock things up. This one's heavy, though.
They'll bump the yellow in behind the blue, so it's sort of like a good news, bad news situation, and the blue one sort of protected it, but of course.
Yeah, that was very heavy. I don't know what the call was at the end of the day. There was some chatter back and forth.
Yeah. Shot might have been doomed from the get-go by the look on the face of the skip there, so wasn't really unsure as we take a look.
Yeah, this shot's
Carly.
Definitely here for Carly. Same shot she would have just played.
This is actually her first year playing with cousin Lindsay. Of course, we mentioned Lindsay there to lead the newcomer, so of course Burgess and Clark, no strangers to each other. And
really nice shot from Carly there. It was almost looking like it was over curling too much, and since that blue one ended up sticking around at the back, it's actually a perfect shot. It over curled so much that it's behind the guard. It makes things a little more complicated for Team Notting. So that's the difference between, if that had curled a tiny bit more, it would have been a big miss. It turns out to be a wonderful shot.
Notting have a lot more chatter here than what we've seen, of course, in the teams played here earlier in the draw a few days ago. Trying to make sure to be on the same page as we await the throw here from Kaylee Notting. And right as soon as it's out of her hand, they work out a bit, now they're off, so we all know in curling team means that they are close. And they do remove the blue, and the yellow will go towards the side, so.
I think what happened there is Kaylee didn't think there was enough of the blue stone behind the guard to access it, so played the run back. And so then I get to go and say, well, the only thing with that is you leave a corner guard. And so here's Kristen Clark making the move to go around that yellow corner guard that's remaining. Sweepers pick this up right away. Might be a little bit light. And they're going for a line too. Usually when it's light, it over curls. So see if they can get it by, though.
Clark, a two-time youth sports competitor out of Dalhousie.
I thought that was gone out of her hand, but they picked it up right at the hog line, swept the whole way. What a great shot.
Yeah, you mentioned it would have been a little bit light as soon as it came out of her hand, so good brushing there.
Perfect. You can thank your sweepers for that one.
By the Lindsay and Carly Burgess law firm, or the sweeping firm of Lindsay and Carly Burgess there, helping out Kristen on that shot.
And that's why this Jones team is the returning champions with all that experience. They just know the sweepers are so in tune with the conditions and speed. They know if it's light, and that's the difference. They pick it up, a couple feet later, and it's going to wreck on that guard. They heads down. They knew it was light. They knew that they had to sweep, and as long as they had to sweep for line too, they could just work. You're not as efficient when you looking up and checking. And this one's just a little heavy here. It's going to leave it wide open. I say a little heavy. It's only a few feet, so maybe the line is slightly different for these two throwers as well.
You just hear her say she doesn't mind 11.
So 11 seconds is the hog-to-hog time. So if you were to start the stopwatch when the rock crosses the first hog line and stop it when it crosses the second hog line, and that's just a measure of speed of the rock, so you know how long it takes to go from hog to hog. And so an 11 is a down weight. It's like a control or close to board. This one looks like a pretty good control weight. They'd love to stick this around, and they're pretty happy if it just kind of sits over there on the side and it kind of forces Kaylee to look at it, because that rock, the shot stone over on the right, is totally buried and it's not really accessible. So I think Kaylee's thoughts will be here, make a double, and the most we give up is 2 if we can stick our shooter around. You hate to be going for this, but we're on skip stones, and if you play the run back and miss it, you're going to be facing 4 on your last. So that's definitely what's dictating this shot for Kaylee.
Yeah, that'd be okay for 2, but if they had to give up like a 3 or even a 4, I don't know. That's probably definitely not in their advantageous to be doing that, because that's a world team that they're facing over there. Well, it's definitely the top team in the province, and to get down 3 or 4, it'd be a big hill to climb. As you mentioned, we're in skip rocks here, and in number 3, Jones with the hammer. Nodding here, trying to get rid of some blue shrapnel. She'll just get rid of 1.
Yeah, Kaylee was trying to hit that on the high side, the center line side. It actually over-curled and the shooter rolled out. She must have got that started out of her hand, because that was curling a lot more than I think anyone expected. So a chance to sit 3 again here for Caitlin. They're happy with 2. 3 would be great, and knowing that Notting only has 1 stone left, she'll just try and make it difficult to make a double. Probably put the stone back in a similar position, right around the tee line. Don't want to leave this high, because if Kaylee, even if she were to miss the double, she could roll behind that guard. So the deeper in the house this is, it's actually going to be better for Team Jones to secure the 2 points.
As we await the throw here from Jones, Ladouceur got a single point and in number 2, so it's 2-0. Isabel Ladouceur at the Lakeshore Curling Club over Calissa Daly of the Halifax Curling Club. Blank in 2, so it's Callie Moore still leading Stephanie Carson. Callie Moore of the CFB Curling Club at the Halifax, and Carson of the Windsor Curling Club. So still 1-0 as they play the 3rd. As this will come to a stop. And pretty well good placement here.
Yeah, there's still a double, but, you know, guaranteed 2 points, basically, even if the double's made for Team Jones. I think Lindsay's probably learning a lot from Carly. Carly does not leave the stone. She is just an excellent sweeper, excellent judge of weight, and I think that's pretty key for this team, is the front end sweepers. And longtime lead Janique LeBlanc, who isn't curling this year. She's at school. She was the other part of that duo that brought them the world title.
Yeah, there's a change over here from this team. We talk about them being defending champions. You talk about LeBlanc. Emily Lloyd also no longer with the team, so they've had 2 changing faces, but hasn't been much of a big deal for them. If we take a look at Kaylee Notting's throw here in 3.
This
Hoping
one
to
running
limit the damage.
much straighter than her first. I think she fixed how she threw that. Just actually didn't get the double or the roll, so it is a hit for 3.
And the Clark foursome, they've had a cheering contingent here at Lakeshore Curling Club, playing those noisemakers as Jones heads up the ice here and gets settled in the hack here for a chance to eliminate that yellow stone and to sit 3 and take a 3-1 lead into 4 as we are into the final stone here and in number 3. 2017 AMJ Campbell Nova Scotia Junior Curling Championships here on TV1. Light brushing there right away from Carly and Lindsay Burgess.
They look down and up at the exact same time. They're just totally attuned with each other. Sweet. Sticks
give
around.
it a little bit of a roll, but they'll get the 3 and take a 3-1 lead into end number 4. Sheet B update. They've just wrapped up the third in, and it was a single point there for Stephanie Carson. So it is 1-1 as they play the fourth. And that's on sheet B as we see the high fives there from the Jones foursome. And once again, we talked about the Jones and their loud cheering fans there. They're cheering at ice level over there close to the sheet B. So still 2-0 Isabel Ladouceur over Calissa Daly here on sheet E right next to us.
I can't believe that. I see the second end there. Calissa gave up a steal of 1, but I'm pretty sure she was facing like 3 or 4 stones the whole end. I think it might be okay with the score, given what I was looking at. It looked pretty bad.
Yeah, sometimes it's a funny sport. You see all those rocks all over the place, and sometimes people use the word big mess. All those stones, and they only usually get 1 point made.
I think
sometimes
that's usually the way it goes. It's really funny. You think all those stones will end in a huge end, but what happens is it's just really hard to remove anything, and the center line and the button gets junked up, and there really isn't any room to score more than 1. So it's like an end like we just saw, which there was literally 1 guard, and the score was 3. It's all about rock placement.
in their game in the earlier draws here at the championships. Notting was pretty well, had a 2-1 lead after 4 ends of play. Now she's trailing by 2 here as we head into the fourth of this one. Both teams coming in at 3 wins and now playing a game of catch-up here for Notting. She does have the hammer here in end number 4 and is going to try to take advantage there of the free guard zone as she'll leave a corner guard in front of the house there, being thrown by Carrie Wellman.
Looks like a little bit of frustration there from Kaylee. It was a nice corner guard that Carrie just threw up, but it can be very frustrating to play against this team, this Jones team. You're probably not going to get a huge miss, so you have to be on and playing well. It's a long game. It's 10 ends, so we're only through 3. We're playing the 4th. And there we see a nice, perfectly lined up center guard covering the shot stone with top 8 from Lindsay Burgess. So those first stones are really important. I think I was mentioning that in the second end, which ended up, Team Notting was in trouble. They missed their first couple stones there. Have a nice corner guard and a chance to get something going here with a little freeze.
Here's Carrie Wellman, a Bridgewater, Nova Scotia native. 11 years of curling experience. 16 years of age. Gives a slight kiss on that blue one and rolls towards the tee line, back tee line in the 8-foot area.
Supers didn't really want to go on that. They knew it was a bit heavy. It does offset the blue from the center line, but still some work to do. And you're up a couple points. It's a comfortable place to be. So that's where Team Jones is. So they can just hit. They can keep it, take it easy. As soon as they get the chance, I think we'll see Caitlin rip that corner guard if they do get the chance to do that.
Blank in N3 there on sheet E between Ladouceur and Daly. So still 2-0 for Ladouceur as they play the 4th. Still 1-1 as they play the fourth between Callie Moore and Team Carson on sheet B. And of course, if you want to find out the latest scores, you can actually head to nscurl.com and hit the AMJ Campbell Under-21 link. And we'll give you the scores and updates from their sheets, so you know what's going on here at the second to last day of the 2017 AMJ Campbell Nova Scotia Curling Championships here on 5PV1. Tried to remove the blue stone, which just pushes it out and loses the shooters.
Yeah, I was looking over at the other sheet and didn't see the call on that. I don't think they were playing the peel. They were sweeping to keep it straight, and it just got that. I think a peel would have been a good shot there too. Just you can run it into the mess in the house. You could hit it on the yellow rock side and got rid of a couple blues. It's very good that center guard is missing now.
As you see, you'd open things up there. You see 2 blue stones belonging to Jones, but they're easily accessible. But Carly Burgess, hoping that maybe block at least one of those 2 right now of her throw here in 4.
Are you thinking of one of our other commentators who happens to be a combination of 2 of the names on this team?
I do that.
We got Carly Burgess and Caitlin Jones, and we got a Carly Jones too. She's yeah. I think she was here yesterday doing a game. So that one came heavy.
How about having Team Daly and Team Carson play together and then say Carson Daly?
Yeah, I heard that before.
I did that one. I guess you could sort of say one of the worst ones I ever did was a few weeks ago. We were in Moncton for the Monktonian, and there was this Aussie King that played for the Dartmouth Subarus Major Midgets. A couple of times I called him Aussie Smith, and I said, that guy hasn't played shortstop for the St. Louis Cardinals. All of a sudden you get those names, one half of one name is on one side of the braid and another one on the other.
I think that mix-up would have been lost on someone like me, though, so you were a little safer.
Yeah.
So more of the same here, Team Jones. Team Notting was looking for a roll there.
Plus it's Saturday morning.
In a good position. It is Saturday morning.
If that's the only mistake I make for the rest of the day, I'll be happy.
All right, you let me know how that goes.
You just want the Cole's Notes version, not documenting every mistake that I make, just to say everything went well right.
Yeah, the
Cole's Notes
bullet
version.
list, yeah.
Okay. A hit and roll, and the Jones team, they're cooking with gas. There you see 1, 2, 3, and looks like they might have burnt the stone, so they're actually trying to protect.
No, I think someone just hit that rock on the top 8 foot. Yeah. So curling is one of those games where you just acknowledge, the sweepers are stepping over stones and jumping over them, and sometimes you hit one. So you just say, hey, I hit this, put it back, and as long as the other skip says, yeah, that's where it was, that's where it stays. The only time that becomes very tricky is when there's one that was maybe on the edge of the rings and we weren't sure if it was in or out. The non-offending skip gets to decide, so sometimes those might end up definitely out in a situation like that. But
and sometimes if the stone's been there a while, there will be a nice little ring there that will actually indicate. Throw in the big weight, and they'll get rid of some of those blue shrapnel there. So
it's a nice double. This just
nodding.
Opens things up, opens up the scoring area. They don't want to get 1. They want 2 points. So making the double is lending a bit toward the blank end. So Kristen Clark, this is her second of 2. Hasn't really been a complicated end for Team Jones. They're just hitting the yellow stones and trying not to jam on their own.
Hit the yellow, and no worries of the jam there, as that was way wide and way to the back. Goes the yellow stone, line 2. Jones again here in 4.
This is kind of where Kaylee is going to have to decide, are we going for 2 points, or are we going for a blank? If you call that hit and roll on the top one and don't make it, you're probably not blanking. There is a double. She's actually playing under the back stone. I'm not convinced on this one.
Well, there's an old adage in this sport that anything behind the tee line is really not your friend. So play the stone that's in the back as opposed to the one up there in the 8-foot area.
Yeah, they're not your friend, but they can be your friend when you're looking to score. They act as backing, and it's, that's not the threatening stone. The top one is. That top one's blocking the in-turn draw.
But you see, as Jones makes her way up, that we are to skip rocks here in number 4. So far, definitely here on this morning draw, and of course we talked about we're talking about the ice issues there in between the first and second in with the tournament organizing committee, and ice hasn't been a problem. Like yesterday, there was a lot of overcurl and a lot of short shots with the Ford and the Logan Sweeney team. So far, nothing much in terms of real issues here for both of these teams. As Jones is throw on the way, well by that guard and all the kinds of ports. And removes the yellow stone, and line 2 once again.
Yes, you didn't want to leave that right there. This every time you hit and stay a stone, the stones become one closer to the tee line. There's the words I'm looking for. So a little bit of a better chance here for Kaylee to make a roll and try and generate that deuce. This is her first shot.
Kaylee Nodding of the Bridgewater Curling Club. Here's first of her 2. Chase onto the stone right away. Wellman there with her head up. Giving instructions. They'll remove the blue. Will the yellow stick around? No, it won't.
I think they overswept that one.
Hear Jones and say, you like that? Because asking her front end, of course, Lindsay and Carly Burgess. As we take a look at the Burgess duel.
We really didn't want that one to roll out. Needed to stick around. Caitlin would have hit it, I think, pretty much anywhere it would have rested. But gives her an open draw to sit 2. And now you see where that blocking of the draw path is going to come into play. She'll just try and get one behind those guards so it can't be hit.
The usual pre-routine throw here for Jones. Sage wanted to keep them off of it, so of course the Burgess ladies haven't touched much of this one. Out there on its own now, starting to come over.
Lindsay just indicating there the raise of the broom might be a little heavy, so she's going to go on the inside. That's the push side of the sweeper's pair, and keep it moving to bury it.
Hear them say, all the way, all the way. They go all the way to the back 8.
Well, that's nicely placed. You can see that Kaylee Nodding can't hit the top stone because she won't be shot. If she hits the back stone and risks rolling, then it gives up a steal of 1. So she's going to play the draw.
Callie Moore of the CFB Curling Club in Halifax has 2 points put on the board there and in number 4, so she's now up 3-1 as they play in 5. Final stone here for Kaylee Nodding. Looking to draw here to get a single point here and in number 4. So far, Wellman, chase on. Light brushing now. Here they go, starting to go hard as it's starting to curl and dig in. And they'll have backing, as you mentioned, and push the blue one and get their single point here in number 4. 3-2 the score now as we head to the 5th. The 2018 Scotties begins Tuesday, January 9th from the Dartmouth Curling Club. You can catch all the action Tuesday, January 9th, starting at 9 o'clock here on Bell 5 TV1, the leaders in sports webcasting in Atlantic Canada. And as you see, the hammer goes and slides right up there thanks to the fine hands of Chuck Calder, our producer here at the Lakeshore Curling Club, as we are enjoying some curling action from the 2017 AMJ Campbell Nova Scotia Junior Curling Championships here on Bell 5 TV1. And Jones will have the hammer here in the 5th, playing the Blue Stones.
So good shot there from Kaylee. I know they wouldn't have been happy with the way that end went. It was all Jones all the way with blue in the rings, and didn't really have any way to generate 2 points at any point during that end, except there was the one, and that's the only one that I would question there from Kaylee, was hitting the back stone instead of the front. You can get so much more generated from keeping your rocks out front. So Carrie will start us off this end, the 5th. After the 5th end, we will have a break. It'll be for 5 minutes. Teams will refuel and come back for the second half.
I just got a little eye here on Sheet E. They're into skip rocks there. A whole lot of rocks in play in that one, so we'll get an update here once that end comes to an end, as they are playing the 4th. 10 rocks in play out of 16 so far, and still more to come. A whole hunk of mess there, but and you can see it there on the top of your screen right there. There is the big hunk of mess that I'm talking about. So we'll update you on that one in a couple of moments, as I mentioned. Lindsay Burgess here in 5. Try to come around that yellow one there, just thrown by Notting. And it will come to a rest, and you know you have good weight when you're putting it right in that position, almost right on the lid. See half a rock there from the hack from our ice level camera. Your team nodding, of course, pretty well simple. You know, this team has done very well in terms of steals so far during the week. In just the games I covered alone, they've actually stolen 10 points.
Wow, and it is all about setup and rock positioning early. And I think the ends that they've struggled have been the ends where they didn't necessarily have their stones in great positions. But this is nice. If you would like to steal or at least force a point, you'd like to have center guards in play. And those are 2 really nice center guards from Carey.
2 big throws there from their lead. Of course, we mentioned that 16 years of age, been curling since the age of 5. So if there's ever a team that could really, really put the force and, can steal points, it's definitely this Notting team. So they'd be down only 1 there in the 5th. No big deal for them, as they're pretty well their motto. And we see this one here from Lindsay Burgess there. And she trying to come around those perfect center ones and put one right there in the house, buried. It'll come to a rest, and we may see about half to maybe 3/4 of the rock there.
Yeah, there's another good example of where sweepers knew that one was a little light. They knew it was going to be a guard if they didn't sweep it. So they did. They switched sweepers to get the extra curl, having the inside sweeper being on the push side. And yeah, you can see it's not totally accessible. So this will be a soft weight hit from Alexis. The important thing when you have guards out front and you're in a position where you need to steal, you need to keep your rocks in play. So they won't want this to roll out. They do make contact with both blue stones. The shooter rolls out, and actually turned out to be an okay shot because the center is clear now. Really would have loved to keep that shooter around, but I don't know with that kind of weight if it was ever going to stick around.
Canadian champion and world champion second Carly Burgess here in 5. Lots of rotation on that rock. Starting to dig in here as Clark and Lindsay Burgess. Puts it right on the lid once again, almost.
And here's where I'm kind of curious to see what Kaylee's going to call. She really does have a tendency to call more of a hit weight, even when down in points. Like, here's a really good example. The other team has put a rock just behind the tee line. You have 2 center guards, but the weight selection here is hit. Is to remove the blue stone. That blue stone is your friend. It's behind the tee line. You can freeze to it. You can freeze in front. You can draw in front of it. Put your stone in front of it. You don't have to remove it. It helps you if you don't remove it.
By the first one, but not the second. Sorry.
That's okay. And it's just, look what happened there. They actually removed their own guard. Yeah, they pushed it and it hit the blue stone. The blue stone's now, third shot and you're second. But that one that was just thrown, that was, sort of a miss. I don't want to call it a full miss because it's still on the button. It's still there.
Updating, of course, sheet E, and it's going to be a measurement here. And they'll post that score, so you'll see on the side of your screen right there the participants. Of course, that's Calissa Daly foursome there, right your picture, and you'll see the officials also measuring on your screen as well. So that end has come to an end, and we'll get you a score as soon as it's posted.
This is the first time I've ever seen a laser measure used for official measurements versus the stick that's normally put down.
Yesterday, Jeff Fitzgerald and I were actually calling again. They said, looks like they're going to get the measurement thing, and all of a sudden again they got that digital thing, and it's like, it was a surprise to me all these times and years.
They use the laser measure for the draw to the button. Yeah, hopefully it's accurate.
Said it was a little bit of a surprise when they brought that out to do that. It just
it never really occurred to me, because even when there is laser measure used at championships, you still use the stick, but I suppose it must be calibrated.
And the stick makes for great television too, eh?
It does. It's very exciting, exactly.
See the old thing going.
There is a display on those laser measures. You can see. So Team Jones made a nice little draw to the top house there, and there's slight miss there from Team Notting, just not getting the rocks in their great positions. They still have the center guard, but Team Jones makes a hit and roll here, and they're 3 buried, and they're reading this Notting team well. And the talk on the last shot when they made that draw was, well, do we go after the second stone on the side? And I think the team realized, like, no, we're making our draws, and they're slightly missing their hits, so let's just put another one in there.
For those folks that weren't with us, of course, with the previous time they met in the earlier in the draw portion here of the championships. It was a steal of 3 by Jones over Notting that really turned the tide for them, because Jones' team was actually trailing for the first 4 ends. Notting hoping to try to keep that crooked number off the board, but right now it is the Jones team lying 3 with hammer here in 5. Hoping that it's not deja vu all over again.
And I just noticed the score got posted on sheet E, so it was 2 indeed for Calissa Daly. The measure was for the second point.
Yeah, we talked about it. All kinds of rocks in play, and all they come up with was just 2 on that.
Yep.
Almost every rock there was in play on that one.
That end was quite back and forth as well. They may be a little short on time. Both teams took a long time. There were a lot of angles and raises and taps and draws and hits. Everything was in that end.
Well, Notting got rid of some blue pieces there in the house.
Yeah, it's a good double. Shooter's gone, but the forefoot's empty. It's just you're chasing. I find Team Notting this game has really been kind of chasing Team Jones and having to make big shots.
Speaking of big shots, she's made a lot here in her junior career, which will come to an end, and she'd like to represent Nova Scotia there to have her career come to an end. Kristen Clark.
These guys are getting some really nice finish. The ice isn't particularly curly, and they do throw a lot of rotation, but these are their provincial stones. They're a little sharper than the club stones would be, and when you throw that nice rotation, it means it will go straighter most of the way down the ice, but then when it's starting to come to a rest, and you get the most finish and the most curl as the rock is slowing down, to still have that rotation lets it just travel a bit further forward, and then likewise you get that last bit of curl out of it. So hit and roll's the call here.
Kaylee Notting, as my broadcast colleague has mentioned, has been chasing Jones a lot here in this morning draw here, the 2017 AMJ Campbell Nova Scotia Junior Curling Championships. Chase on, doing head down, scrubbing all the way. Nose hit and a little bit of a roll.
Yeah, so Caitlin can hit and roll underneath. She can hit and roll to the wings too. It really doesn't matter too much for her.
And once again, you hear the Jones fans here, all bundled up in blankets and pretty well every warm possible clothing you could imagine there, ice side, cheering on the team. And they've had lots of cheerabouts so far, undefeated here at the championships. Hoping to keep that streak alive here. In control of this one, 3-2 in the fifth, and has hammer here in the fifth. Lindsay and Carly Jones on it already, and you could see Jones screaming. You could see it, hopefully trying to make sure that they get this, and they're right on it, and they'll get the roll and roll to the side.
And Lindsay, that one curled a lot more. I think that's the second time I've seen in this game I've seen Caitlin's intern curl more than Kaylee's, and she just has a little softer release, and maybe than the rest of her team too. Someone over curled, and Lindsay was catching to realize, as a good sweeper should, that, oh shoot, we don't want that near the forefoot. The other team can hit and roll, so she was trying to sweep it a little further away into that 8-foot. So we're switching sides here. Kaylee's just going to go for the hit and roll.
Last rock for Kaylee Notting. We'll vote hammer here in number 5. Wellman, chase on. I'm going to say heads down, but Wellman looks up momentarily. And we'll roll to the other side.
So it is shot stone, but it's open. Available for a hit, and you see that blue stone. It's at the bottom of the screen, but that's actually the top of the rings. Is second shot, so if this one's hit and the shooter stays, it'll be 2 for Team Jones. And this one kind of, I don't want to say came out of nowhere, but I would have given the advantage to Team Notting early in the end, and they just had one unfortunate miss where they wrecked on their own guard, and I think they could have just played a little more aggressively to try and get one in there instead of playing the hit. That's where that started.
Sheet B, Stephanie Carson versus Callie Moore. They're going to the 5th end break. We'll update that score when we get back from our 5th end break here. Final stone here for the Caitlin Jones foursome out of the Halifax Curling Club. Hoping to hit and stick here for 2. Jones working hard. Both Burgess is working hard there, and they get the hit and stick there for the 2. Take a 5-3 lead here after end number 5. So We're going to take a break here at Bell 5 TV1, and we'll update you the scores from Sheet E and Sheet B when we return in about 5 minutes. You're watching the 2017 AMJ Campbell Nova Scotia Junior Curling Championships on Bell 5 TV1.
Yeah. Took a minute to get the rock flow. Everyone's on a team with 25, 30 seconds, so you're cutting. Second half.
Teams have returned to the ice here for end number 6 between Caitlin Jones and the Kaylee Notting team at the 2017 AMJ Campbell Nova Scotia Junior Curling Championships here on Bell 5 TV 1. 5-2 is the score as we're in end number 6. Notting has the hammer, throwing the yellow stones. And Hobson alongside Selena Thompson here. And you mentioned it earlier in that 5th end that it's been pretty well Notting, Jason Jones. And I guess what are we going to really expect to see here in the second half of this one? What do you think?
Well, it's funny that you say that. I was just looking at the scoreboard as Lindsay was throwing, and it really does tell the story of the game. I think Kaylee's going to call it. Going to have to. Oh, I was going to say a corner guard, but just coming in, they would have talked about this on their break. What the plan would be here. They're going to have to be aggressive. They're down 3. It's not the end of the world, but you look there at the scoreboard. I mean, that's kind of classic curling. Score multiples and force your opponent to 1, and those ones out of Team Notting, she's been facing 2 or 3 to get those ones, and that's what Team Jones is doing very well, and most of it's execution. There's been a couple times where I think Team Notting could have called a different shot, maybe set themselves up for a couple instead of playing that maybe the more safe call. So that's out of them, I think it's just going to be a little bit of execution. Now that was a really interesting call here. Typical curling strategy is the other team goes in, you have last rock, you're down points, you need a corner guard, but maybe they're not happy with how that's going, and sometimes teams will make that adjustment. They would have had their conversation at the halfway point with their coach, Scott, and maybe they said, well, let's bring the play into the house some more, don't get caught up out front, but you have to make those freezes so perfectly, and Lindsay just made a great shot. Team Jones doesn't care if they lose all their rocks. They're happy if no one scores the rest of this game. So here's the corner guard. I mean, that freeze is one way to get rid of your opponent's top 12-foot stone, and that could have been the discussion at the halfway point.
As I mentioned before the break, we're going to update the scores there. They have gone into the 5th end break, and they was a blank there in end number 5, so it is 2-2 as they play there. And that is on sheet E, Isabel Ladashore and Calissa Daly. 2-2 as they are into the 5th end break over there. Callie Moore got a point, so she scored 1 in the 1st and 2 in the 4th and had another one in the 5th, so she is up over Stephanie Carson. Stephanie Carson out of the Windsor Curling Club, and the score there, as I mentioned, is 4-1 as they have resumed play there in end number 6. Yeah, it's quite you were talking about it, how they've sort of come into the rings there, sort of the Notting team, and
well, you
have the free guard zone. You might as well take advantage and try to get rocks in there and then bring them into the house.
And Kaylee did call the corner guard on her second, but then the free guard zone's over, and Carly Burgess could hit it, and she peeled it out perfectly, and now there's no stones in play, so it's just going to be, it just could be an end that the Notting team wants to settle and have no rocks in play, and that if that was their strategy, it works well. I just think it's really, really hard to generate points when you choose not to use that free guard zone and not have anything to protect your stones in the rings. They need a miss now out of Team Jones, and that's a hard way to play a curling game.
And you can probably maybe count the misses that they've had maybe on both your hands throughout the season.
Probably true.
As this one will come to a rest there, the 8-foot area. And thing is, we mentioned, of course, covering the Notting team a lot here at the championships. A relatively young team, like Kaylee's the oldest at the age of 18. The rest of them are like 15 and 16. So I mean, a lot of confidence, and they're playing a pretty well world-class team, and they're pretty confident in their play, and and no panic either too.
Oh, for sure. They don't get flustered. I see a little bit of frustration because it is frustrating when you're not making your shots perfectly, and the other team is. But that's the game we sign up to play, and it's only learning for this team.
Because, as you said, they're just missing with just like rock placements and maybe half-shot misses, and to be down by 3. But that's the thing. When you're playing this caliber of a team, you got to be pretty well 100% on. And But that's what that Jones team does to you as we are.
Yeah, and Caitlin will let you get points. I mean, she'll let you get one. But they're not going to take any chances up 3. They'll just keep hitting.
So that's going to sail towards the back. Jones pounces on it, hoping to get it out the rest of the way, but we'll come to a rest there in the back 12.
Not a bad result. Team Jones' shot. They can draw to sit 2, but I think the defensive instinct will rule in this case. You just play the run back. You can afford giving up 2, but if you don't try and get rid of that yellow stone, brings maybe a multiple point situation into play for Team Notting. So just run it back. We're still early. We're on second stone still on Carly Burgess' second. And the sooner you can lose that yellow stone, even if you don't make it on this one, it opens it up and get a double at some point and limit the score. And I say we're on second stones. We're on Kristen Clark's first. I forgot that Carly made a hit on a stone in the rings.
Both of us were joking off air before the broadcast how we're not morning people. If we were to hide the fact, we're not doing a good job of that.
I think it's evident, yeah.
Yeah, we just...
really nice shot from Kristen there. Now they said 2, so, that takes away the blank to some extent. Still could be there, but now Team Notting's the one that has to make shots. It's just really hard to defend when the other teams, or not defend, sorry, to generate points when the other team is making their shots.
Caitlin Notting here as we're into third rocks in number 6. Wellman doing the work, chase on there, head up looking at the shot, and they'll remove the yellow stone. The yellow will move in and stick around and be the shot rock right now, just inside the 8-foot area, short of the tee line to lie 1 there for Notting. Of course, they have that blue stone that they don't want to jam onto the back to, but I don't think that's really going to be much of a factor here for Clark on this shot. So it's going to be really important here for Burgess, both Lindsay and Carly, to hold the line, and they're on it right away. Look up just momentarily.
You can play those shots.
Hit.
Almost got the back one. They would have liked if it got the back one, I think. You can control those upweight hits by playing them tight with the rotation that these guys throw. They're not going to curl that much. So you can play the ice tight. If you played it a little wider, you might hit things on the outside too much. But play tight sweepers and kind of, we say back up or back up the rock, sweep hard, and sometimes it'll affect the line and almost looks like it curls the other way. And they're playing those really nicely.
Well, I gave it the old curling jigs. I didn't think they were going to jam the rock. They almost did. As we see the throw here from Caitlin Notting. And she came just a little close to try to get that blowing, but misses. And
yeah, it all seems to be slightly half shots. So they didn't make the double and they didn't make the roll. And the double and the roll in that case aren't close together. You kind of have to commit to one shot and not say, well, we'll do whatever, is there. And Team Jones, even on these straightforward hits, they're seeming to be a little more successful with judging the line and where to put the broom. There's not as much of a panic sweep call you'll hear here.
you see that shot right there? That's where some coaches are. Of course, you see Atherton over the shoulder there of Clark. And the Notting ladies, of course, blocking out their coach, Scott Notting. You might have just seen his head just momentarily after that shot. As we're into Skip Rocks here at 6.
Yeah, Andrew Atherton out of Chester, longtime coach of Carly. She's the lone remaining member of the original Mary Fay rink, curled out of Chester. I remember watching them here at this club at a provincials years and years ago, and they were so young. And they were so good. He's been with them through it all. Really good coach and a really nice guy.
He's the one with the glasses there, with a hooded sweatshirt there with the white logo right in the corner of your screen. And there we're getting a chance to see Scott nodding there, of course, right close to that purple water bottle. That's the coach there from the Bridgewater Curling Club.
I don't know Scott at all, but I'm sure he's an awesome guy too. All these curling coaches, they commit so much time to going. It's not just games. Like, they're here all week. Every game, before and after, they do, pre-game warm-ups and discussions and post-game, and then there's the practice. And then there's, everything through the year. They're there for practices. They travel to Bonspiels. It's a huge commitment. And it's all volunteer work. No one gets paid. So I guess I'll take this moment to commend all the coaches who are here and across the province.
It's nice how you seg that way into what I was going to say is, of course, put on an event like this here at the Lakeshore Curling Club. It takes a lot of volunteers, and hats off to them for putting on a spectacular event. Everything has, with the little hiccup last night with the ice conditions. There's the coaching staff there, Mr. Atherton, as you talked about. Just fantastic organization from top to bottom, and everything has, run very well. So hats off to them for putting on a good championship here all week.
It's always fun. It's really nice to have the benches or out on the ice surface. It's just, you don't get to hear your team when you're cheering from them behind the glass. You can't hear what they're saying, and it's really neat to be out, and it's a lot more intense when you can watch them from out on the ice. At least I think so.
Well, it's a sort of even like an added little thing here for some of these teams too, because you go to some of the clubs there, and there's no real cheering section. As you mentioned, they're just behind the glass. They can't hear, but
Yeah, there's 6 sheets here, but only 4 get used for the provincials, so you have that extra room to put the benches out, which you can't normally. Curling clubs don't tend to have a ton of money to have seating out in the ice shed. So.
Yeah, for sure, exactly. So just a little added feature. Just say all of a sudden the noise gets to be a little bit of a factor with the clappers and the thunder sticks as we're into the last rock here in 6. There's the hit in the roll out, so the blank there for nodding. She'll have the hammer here at number 7. Still 5-2, Caitlin Jones out of the Halifax Curling Club over Kaylee Notting of the Bridgewater Curling Club. As we head to N7. I guess I'll put this to you. Of course, you talked about, and of course we are broadcasting on the Sheet C that coming fourth in a national, championship, and well done to you. Kudos once again.
Oh, thank you.
And of course, when you go to the Bonspiels and participate, you don't have those, spectator seats out there. Does it take a little bit of adjustment factor to deal with maybe some of the noise at that level?
We didn't have it at the nationals. They made use of all 6 sheets.
Oh, that's
interesting. It was the men's and women's combined. It was the Travelers National Curling Championships in Kingston, and it was at the Cataraqui Golf and Country Club, which is a beautiful facility celebrating its 100th anniversary this year. Fans couldn't sit out on the ice, so we were out there by ourselves, so we didn't have to adjust at all.
That is an interesting story.
I wanted them to. It's so fun when you're I not from my experience from curling, but my 2 brothers have both been to the junior nationals, so the same thing that these players are playing for. And you do get to sit out on the ice for the most part. There was 1 out of 3 that I went to that we didn't get to. The other 2, and you're out on the ice and you've got your, we paint our noses blue and wear the sou'westers, and it's just really cool. And I think the players like it because when they make a good shot, it's not just your team that's congratulating you. It's a whole crowd of fans, and they're cheering and clapping and yelling, and it's fun. But that's I'm speaking from the fan perspective. I don't know. Maybe my brothers hated it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It'll just be sort of interesting how like a player perspective, all of a sudden you go from, you get to start playing right around
I'm just
October.
looking there. The carry just didn't quite get that corner guard over the line.
Yeah, hogged there, so. Just was to just say it could be a little bit of a different feeling. All of a sudden you go from, nothing, and then you have crowd. It just could be a little bit of different factor. May have to rely more on hand communication because maybe not be able to hear each other.
You definitely do. Yeah, there's one nice lady. She's in the women's now, Sarah Colton from the Yukon, and she it was the first time I ever saw anyone have a mitt. Her leather mitt had red tape or pink or whatever on one side and green on the other, and she would flash her hand whichever side for the sweepers, and they could see. And I don't know if it was at a juniors or somewhere else I can't remember. And I don't know how loud it is at different levels, but it was a player that had a whistle. One of his players was hard of hearing, or it was the skip I can't remember what it was. But there was a whistle. I think it was allowed. I feel like it was at a juniors. I'm not sure though.
The whistle is sort of interesting because all of a sudden you have like other sheets going on and you hear that and all of a sudden
it's a different noise, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. A lot of skips wiggle their broom to indicate, but yeah, it does get loud. It can even get loud when there's no fans out there and you're just playing at a bonspiel. And I don't know, people laugh at me. I yell really loud. I guess it's because I want to be heard.
So they split some of the rocks there in the front of the house there. So open up the path just a little bit more on the shot there by Notting.
Yeah, they were going for the corner guard. Like I mentioned in the last end, they played a freeze and tried to keep things clean. They were going for the corner guard early, and really, really unfortunate. They didn't stop on the line by much. I think it was probably only an inch on the line, but it comes out of play, and now play is brought to the rings, and they're probably going to try and get out of this with a blank end as well. A little bit of work to do now, though. There's 3 blues in the rings.
Yeah, and we're still early here because we're into like just might have passed the second stones onto the thirds here, so. And you can see Jones communicating with her team even when the shot's done.
Oh, for sure. We all do that. Usually it's like, you were tight.
Yeah.
But it's all useful information because everyone wants to know what happened, why did, that one curled more than they expected, so why?
Yeah. See something that maybe they didn't see at the other end. Adjustments as we are still on the second rock series chase on here. She's unique is that she is a Bedford native and goes to Halifax West High School, where it's Wellman Notting, and Caitlin Notting and Kaylee Notting, both out of Bridgewater. So
that's a nice looking little shot there. It may be accessible, but they're trying to make the best of a bad situation this end. And Caitlin, up 3, sitting 1 with 2 others in the rings, does not really care if that shot stone is removed at this point. You see a lot of weight here from Carly.
gives it the extra little push there. It's Lindsay Burgess and Kristen Jones here just sweeping here just to keep it clean, and they do punch it out, and perfect shot that never even moved the blue one.
It's a really good shot. Just has that little extension. It's that pop release that team throws. A lot of teams do that. And it might mean that some of the rocks don't curl as much as others, but when you get on the ice conditions like you're going to see at Nationals and Worlds, of course, is you have to have that. It was one thing, or go back to our Nationals, I don't want to complain or belabor the point, but our team, we found that we were really struggling because we had soft releases, and we would, wreck on guards. And so last year when we were trying to, win our provincials, we decided as a team, we're going to throw similarly, all of us similar. So we all slightly changed our throws to our releases in particular, so that we had lots of rotation, and it was great. It meant, in Nova Scotia, where we have fairly straight ice, that sometimes we couldn't get the curl that the other teams could. But when it came to playing at our provincials, we benefited from it. I think that was a big factor that was involved in our win. And we went to the Nationals, where typically you do get, those conditions with lots of nice curl, and it was pretty straight. So we, I think we kind of shot ourselves in the foot on that one, but we still made playoffs, so it's okay. So that rock, a shooter rolled. or sorry, didn't get the Yellowstone all the way out of the rings, but it's not first or second. I don't even know if it's third shot. I gotta look back at the overhead.
While we wait, that John Seitman, of course, a broadcast colleague of ours, says that you may be thinking of the Ontario skip Brian Cochran with the whistle, who got permission to use it at the 2003 Brier at the what was then Metro Center, now Scotiabank Center, due to a medical condition.
Was it in 2003? I feel like it was like
sooner than that.
5 years ago. Maybe there's more than one.
Well, you guys could have a little chit chat. Of course, the vast amount of curling knowledge you two have together.
I'd give John the benefit of the doubt on any kind of stats or factoids.
Yeah, his memory for stuff is just fantastic.
Yeah, much better than mine. That's why my phone is always with me. I can't remember things, so I have to write it down.
Yeah, we talked about that yesterday.
Yep. Everything's in the calendar. If it's not in the calendar, it won't be there. So we're back to the game now.
Yep.
But hit being played. So
this is going to stick around. No, we'll have a little spin and we'll just bite there and stay in the rings there.
So Team Notting played, instead of playing the draw that they have been playing onto the shot stone or freeze, because Team Jones is just so good at removing their Yellowstones, they played a hit. And then that was accessible, but Kristen Stone just rolled a little bit too far, so it's slow and steady, and it's a patient game. You just wait. That was a little bit of a miss from Team Jones, so now you get a chance to make your own hit and roll.
Wellman chase on. They'll hit the roll. They'd like to keep this there, but doesn't look like that's in the cards right now, as that will roll towards the back.
No, they still have a chance for two, though. Their second shot.
Yeah.
Caitlin's shot, so they're looking at maybe running that little blue one back onto the yellow. It's not that far of a run back, so you just have to basically hit like you're, taking out that blue stone. You can sit two. We had a situation like this, if anyone was watching the other day, where a skip in a situation like this decided to throw the draw. It was against Team Notting. I think it was Calissa Daly, actually. Decided to throw a draw instead of a hit to limit the other team's ability to score, and she was heavy and threw a stone through the rings. And then Kaylee Notting, to her credit, made a beautiful run back for two. But in this case, defensive play rules, and even if you don't make this, at most you're giving up a score or two.
And you could hear the vocals of the team. They are pretty close, and they get a piece of it, and the blue stone will actually push towards the center line and sit there in the back 8. You knew they were close and were on it based on the reaction from the teammates there in that one. Line 2 is the Caitlin Jones foursome out of the Halifax Curling Club. Updating sheet B, Team Stephanie Carson out of the Windsor Curling Club. They have a single point in number 6, so they're sort of clawing their way back in that one. 4-2 as they play the 7th. Of course, the Isabel Adesor, Calissa Daly game on sheet E, they're sort of a little bit behind with the rest of us, but so they just had an end, came to an end, and they're going to post a score soon, so we'll get you an update on that one as soon as we get the results.
Kaylee needs the roll here in order to try and get that second point. What a nice roll.
That is a pretty good one. It didn't roll out to the other side and it didn't really quite stick, so it's sort of partially buried as you see the line 1. As you mentioned a few seconds ago, they're still looking pretty good here to get their 2.
So good front ends, or they get the rock ready for the skip. They actually sit in the hack if there's a situation like this where they know that the skip's going to wonder, like Caitlin would have wondered there, how much can you see? And both Carly and Lindsay sat in the hack and, oh, we can't see it. So that's the reason for the draw call here. She could run her own stone back, but this would be the shot. I mean, there's a lot more room for error on something like this. You freeze down to the shot stone and take away the 2 points. This one's hanging. Sweepers don't seem to love it. They're hanging back, so it must be heavy.
Kind of hoping that it will sit. May start to dig in, but will sit in the back 12. Well, it's a pretty easy open draw here for 2 for Notting.
Yeah, this is the first that was, this end was all Jones, and one really, really nice roll there from Kaylee Notting results in a chance for 2. She needs to bite the 8-foot to ensure the 2 points. Might think once the blue stone was past the shot yellow stone that they were in the clear, but wherever that blue stone stopped, that's what Kaylee would have to outcount. So she just swept it to make sure that she had a little extra room. She's been throwing a lot of hits. She's relying on her sweepers for this, but she does have backing to go to if she needs it.
Final stone here for Kaylee Notting of the Bridgewater Curling Club. Trailing by 3, but a chance here to bring this down to a single point deficit for her if this can sit in. As you said, has backing, but will bump and get her too.
A little heavy on that, but she did have the backing. It over curled. If it had curled too much more, it might have gone a little too far if it didn't make contact with that stone, but gets the deuce.
Jones will have the hammer, and in number 8, up by 1, updating sheet B. Ladouceur got a single point in 6, so still a close one there. Isabel Ladouceur 3 and Calissa Daly 2. Of course, Ladouceur here playing out of her home rink, the Lakeshore Curling Club, and Daly, the Halifax Curling Club. And I mentioned nothing new to report there on B since the last update. Still 4-2 there for Team Moore over Team Carson. Moore, of course, out of the CFB Curling Club, and Carson out of the Windsor Curling Club.
And those are elimination games, the other 2 games that are being played right now. So either Moore or Carson will be out, and Daly or Ladouceur. So Jones with hammer again.
As we play the 8th. Got to give curlers their credit for having the short-term memory, and you've got to have it at championships like this. You would have figured, you know, it'd be in the back of your mind, you were in a game, and then all of a sudden it sort of got off the rails and a 10-3 loss, and now, of course, right now only down by 1 and continue playing. It's definitely a bounce back against this team for sure. 5-4 as we stand here in the 8th.
Yeah, and to that one, they would have loved that to be a guard. It's in the ring, so it's going to be hit. I just, Katarina Danbrook texted, so maybe I was right in that it was more recently that I saw the whistle. She said Cochran, so the same player that John mentioned, was at the Senior Worlds last year. Kat would know because her mom was there. And he was the skip for Team Canada in Lethbridge. He had a whistle then too. So that must have been where I saw it, and I'm just mixing everything up. So thank you, Katarina.
You know, that's the only thing that I think that you and I are missing is like statisticians and, you know, human encyclopedias to, you know, help us out on things like that. And
Yeah,
stories.
it would be awesome. I mean, it's not like it takes a lot of time or effort to come up with that stuff.
Going through stuff for like 15, 20 years of stuff. And
yeah. Anytime I hear stats, I'm like, oh, there's someone that's back there that's giving those numbers to the commentators. And So I just try and quote what I've heard them say. You have a better chance of, it's 60-40 if you have hammer to start that you're going to win the game. And, down one coming home, you're best to take the hammer down one coming home. This is all from other broadcasts I've listened to, and I'm assuming that their stats are correct.
This one looks like it will probably get into the rings here. And it will come and sail and stop at the back 8. Chase on here in end number 8. Both the teams doing well in terms of time. Of course, 15:32 here for the Notting team and 18:16 for Jones. As we play the 8th. Nose hit there to lie 1 for Notting, and of course when you get into sort of like a hitting peeling in, there's really not much thinking, not much decision, just the one that's down there, get rid of it pretty well, grip it and rip it, not wasting a lot of time here.
Yeah, and at the beginning of the game, both teams are happy to have a blank end, but for the team that's down without, you don't really want it. You can't afford too many of these blank ends anymore. You have to get something going. So for Team Jones, they're happy to do this, and Team Notting, they're thinking, ugh, why? But they got to roll out, so they can try and put a guard in play, maybe get a miss or a missed peel where the shooter sticks around.
Notting team have scored in their 4 games, or have basically scored 31 points in total in their 4 games here at the championships. So they're basically averaging nearly close to scoring 8 points a game. And right now, this one seems to be a little bit more of a defensive battle, and you were maybe expecting a lot of rocks and play, a lot of offense with both these teams. And right now, they've only combined for 9. So sometimes, you think with the way that it's going to go, it ends up not going that way. But still lots of curling still left to go as we're here in the 8th. Things starting to get loud there ringside.
I think
the coffee's starting to kick in.
Pretty intense shot on sheet B. I didn't see what happened. It was Callie Moore throwing, and she wanted her sweepers to stop sweeping, so she told them. As
Blue will go to the back, and you hear the encouragement say, okay, Carla.
This was really interesting. So Team Notting put the guard out. I just assumed that Caitlin Jones would peel it, because that's been what she's been doing, is pretty defensive all along. She switched it up. She called the draw, and that's the first full miss I've seen, I think, out of that team. Carly just threw a little heavy and went through the ring. So here's a great opportunity to put a good stone in place here. It's Caitlin Notting throwing.
Yep, coming around, Caitlin Notting. Coming over and sitting. But it looks like it may just come out a little bit on the other side. And they may be able to see half a rock. Exactly.
Yeah, you don't take too many chances with that. Just peel. They made a play to try and get a couple and missed it. So now it's, make sure you score. Scoring an 8's good. I think they would be okay with a blank too.
Yeah, you were mentioning about the big cheering contingency there for Callie Moore, making a whole whack of noise. A 3 spot will do that there in the 7th end, so they're taking control of that game. And as you said, that's the elimination game.
Yeah, it's 7-2 after 7.
So the Team Carson there from the Annapolis Valley, the Windsor Curling Club, have some work cut out for them. As As the guard is removed, the shooter goes bye-bye as well. On, of course, the sheet E, so watching that one. Keeping an eye on that one. They're a little bit behind in terms of play, so we'll keep you up to date on scores on that one, as this one is going to come to rest.
Over curled a little bit, but see what you can see from the hack. What you do with this kind of shot, if you're trying to hit the stone in the rings, just play it a little tight, probably a soft weight. If you get the guard, fine. Maybe roll your shooter in if you get the guard.
Who says you can't do play-by-play of 3 games in one sheet? I just figured to give everybody a little bit of update on that one. Of course, it's still a close one there on sheet E between Ladouceur and Daly. This one's a close one as well, 5-4, and there's a hit and roll, but it's easily accessible.
Yeah, that was exactly as called from Kristen. Nice soft weight, kind of like a board, I think. I think the call might have been control. I don't know their hand signals for weight, but looked like a control indication. Maybe threw a little down, and it took a bit of extra curl at the end. They would have liked to roll that even more. The further away you roll it, the further behind the tee line you go, and it makes it not as juicy of a hit and roll for Kaylee. Now this is on the tee line, so when she rolls, she'll roll behind the tee. But it's a bit of a play where knowing that you'd like to steal, but you can't go too hard for the steal by playing draws because the other team might get 2. So she still has to be aware and doesn't want to leave this blue stone there, so she'll hit it.
Southpaw style of Kaylee Notting. Removes the blue stone and gets a roll, rolling towards the other side of the sheet, and we'll come to a stop at the back 12. And even before that stone even came to an end, Jones puts the broom down there to her third Clark and heads up ice. Not wasting any time is the team out of the Halifax Curling Club. Looking to go back-to-back here and punch their ticket to the Junior Curling Championships.
I think it's like back-to-back to back-to-back.
Back-to-back to back-to-back.
Yeah. Actually, I don't know how many they've won. It's been,
see, this is where we
it's
need
been
our
a few.
statisticians again.
Yep. I'm sure John's on it. Actually rolls out on that one. I do think Caitlin's in-turn curls more. Her out-turns have gone straighter, and her in-turns have been the ones that have curled more. So with that rollout, again, this end has been like a really good opportunity for Team Notting. They've it didn't look so good early in the last few shots. They've had that guard in play. I think the Jones coach, Andrew Atherton, they may talk about that after the game. Is that call to come around? That was the difference in this game. If that shot was made, too, there's a world of difference, right? You pretty much are giving yourself a point or two. But you have to always weigh the risk reward. The risk is if you miss it, how bad is it? And do you want to give the other team a potential 1 point to tie it up in 8?
They have to go hard here to make sure to try to get passes. It's coming up quickly, and I think they're right all over it. Actually, no, they just do get by. Is it going to get a piece of the house? Yes, it is. Nice sweeping. We're almost like not quite over the sheet, but we're at ice level, and by the looks of it, of course, we have a little bit of a different angle than probably the rest of you had. It looks like she might have been just a little bit on it, but she did squeak by.
Yeah, it must have been a little bit light because that curled earlier, and you can see there half a rock, maybe a little more is what you can see from the hack because the camera is it's actually angled in a position that makes you see less of the stone. So I suspect Caitlin can see a bunch of this. She could play the draw and, be up 2 after 8, but she'd like to retain hammer. So this is appeal.
Trying to blank here in number 8, the Caitlin Jones team out of the Halifax Curling Club.
It's really grabbing that line. She gets it by and makes the peel. Great shot.
Our second blank of the game this afternoon is we had blank in the first in and a blank here in 8, so Jones will keep the hammer here in end number 9. And nothing new to report on the scores there on sheets B and E right now. So, of course, the Jones team here in end number 9 here. Do you think that, of course, up by 1, not really the safest lead. Do you think that there's going to play probably a little more defensively here and try to blank this one and keep the hammer in 10?
Yeah, I think so. I think they just don't want to give up a steal. But coming home with hammer is usually what teams will want, especially if you're up 1 point. You'd love to come home with hammer. So I think that'll be the game plan there for Team Jones. And Team Notting knows if they give up a single point here, it's not the end of the world. They can score 2 in 10. And then they'd have to steal in the 11. So the way I look at it is why not just steal one here and steal one in 10. Now that's not the easiest thing to do. So you have to play it by ear a little bit. Is that John?
It is John.
I knew it. How many repeats?
Looking for their 5th, so it's great to have that statistician with us.
How many was it, sorry?
He says the team in all different versions has won the title 4 times, looking for their 5th.
This is for the 5th, so it'll be 5th for Carly. And Andrew.
Thanks, John.
And it will be the 3rd for Kristen.
Selena Thompson is also a mathematician on the side, as you can along the way, figuring all this out just on top of your head and still commentate.
I try my best.
Yeah.
It's not that good. So, N9. Had center guard, a little bit of a tick made, another center guard called. The important thing with those ticks from Lindsay, this one has to get over.
That's well light, and it is not going to get there.
That's tough because that's when you don't have hammer, you do get 2 stabs at a guard before things can be removed, and that yellow one's still there. But you can see for Team Jones, the 4-foot's open, so ability to score, or hopefully for them, I think blank is still available.
Definitely.
They're kind of talking. Do we want to go for 2, or do we want to keep things open? If they draw open side, they're going for the blank.
An interesting stat here on this game, no steals, and of course I mentioned earlier in the broadcast that Notting has stolen 9 points here so far in the championships, and that's really been pretty well the success here for her. So this Jones foursome really not giving Notting any chance here to steal points, and it's been pretty well the reason why the Jones is on top 5-4 here in the 9th. And the reason why the score is not as high as we anticipated or expected maybe possibly to be. I think that's our second hog that we've had here in this game.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of when the ice is fast. Normally you don't see a lot of hog rock. You see a lot more going through, but as the week's gone on, I've noticed teams are very much adjusting to the speed. We had a lot of heavy throw-throughs or back house draws before, and they're really adjusting. I've seen some great shots this game.
Chase on now. Notting's brushing for line, and they will remove the blue stone, and shooter will stick. So this is turning into the old-fashioned curling game here, just pretty well hit and peel.
Sure is, and that's the reason for that call to the side, is to just keep things open, keep the play away from that guard. You just know that Team Notting is itching to get something behind it. And Team Jones is saying, we're not going to give you the chance. The important thing for Team Jones is to just keep these hits, keep the shooters around. If a shooter rolls out, I think we'd see Kaylee go pretty quick for a draw around that guard, or she could put up another center guard too, actually.
Term that is used a lot in terms of sport is that, of course, offense is pretty, but defense wins championships. Maybe the case in point here for the Caitlin Jones team here of the Halifax Curling Club.
This is interesting. Same situation as before. Caitlin called a draw to the wings, and that was just to waste time. But as soon as the other team misses a shot, now we get the peel. So it's later in the end. Just clear things up. Maybe if we get the roll behind there, she would have gone for her easy too, but now it's pretty clear the blank is the desired result.
Removes that corner and the shooter goes. So as you see, things pretty empty here in the 9th.
It's funny you say the score close. It is a tight score, 5-4, but there certainly is, you just see a little bit of stress. You know, Team Notting knows that they're definitely not in control of the game, especially now with this looking like a blank end. So they're calling timeout. And they just have to think about, what do we do here? Do we put up a guard? Do we go into the rings? Because Jones is going to blank, and you have to steal 10 and steal 11 to win. So we're just going to talk about maybe where to place this next stone. It might not be as simple as putting it right on the center line.
Game is just past the 11 o'clock hour, so this one's 2 hours, and game's really moving along pretty quickly when you think of that. And here's our first time out, a chance to see both the respective coaches that we talked about, and we could actually eavesdrop on the conversations.
Well, if you throw the bird, they use it, then you go around. Right? So you have to force that way. If not, go through and steal your license. Yeah, okay.
Just make it later. It's just pick up later.
That's up to you.
It's not mine, it's yours.
I think Scott's just saying to Team Notting the benefits, the pros and cons of their options. You can play it into the rings. You can play guard. You can put it into the ring. Sorry, we're just having couldn't hear myself talk. We were listening to that conversation, so Scott was just giving them the benefits of what to do and what the other team will do in response to your shot that you play. So I think Team Jones has shown that they're going to hit anything. So maybe you just put this guard a little higher in a little different position on one side of the center line that you think that you'll get a miss out of them. It's also nice to have those timeouts just to take a second away from the game, check in with your coach.
Yeah, because things could be going maybe a little bit faster. The game is speeding up in your head, and you may not be thinking all the best and trying to come up with a good way to a good clean shot. There's a yellow stone being removed, and the brushers push that Jones stone out of play.
Nice shot from Kristen. And now we got Caitlin. So we got a Caitlin, a Kristen, a Kaylee, a Carly.
This game brought to you by the letter K.
And Carrie's the only one with the C, yeah. Kaylee, Caitlin, Carrie, Carly, Kristen, Caitlin. I was thinking, I'm like, I'm having a hard time sometimes just saying the names because I have to double check and look and see who's there. And I think that's why.
Another guard put up. Kristen Clark here in the 9th. A little bit all by itself there. We'll get the rock and shooter goes. Looking to go undefeated and get their 4th win here at the championships. Here is the Caitlin Jones team based out of the Halifax Curling Club. Club, the 4-time champions here at this event.
We're getting a pretty full house here with only 3 sheets on the go. There's a lot of spectators here today. I guess it is Saturday morning, so people aren't working.
This one will come to a rest there, and a little bit of extra scrub there by Kaylee Notting there, and we'll just stop just short of the house. And you could hear the clappers go once again as Jones makes her way up the ice here. Her loyal fan base, been here pretty well since day one of these championships. As we pick up the audio there on sheet E competition, they blanked in 7, so still tight over there. 3-2 Lattiser over Daly here as they play the 8th. Carson got a single point, so she's sort of trying to climb her way back into that one against Moore. And back here, of course, a hit and a rollout. So, of course, pretty well the option now to bring this one in the house and
Yep.
kind of hope for a miss from a team that doesn't miss a lot.
Yeah, and this will be in the rings. And if Caitlin Jones, I mean, she's going to try and peel it out and retain hammer, I assume, but it will play it safe. You don't want to play the peel so hard that you miss the rock, so they'll play it tight. Good chance for a draw, though, for Kaylee Notting here, just to get to throw a couple shots. She was a little heavy on her draw for 2. Still got the 2 points earlier, but nice opportunity here just to settle in 9.
7-3 Callie Moore out of the CFB Curling Club. Leading the Stephanie Carson team out of the Brinzer Curling Club as they play in 9 over there as well. I wish we got this sort of ovation when we walked to our broadcast booth.
You don't?
No, I don't.
Me neither.
Yeah, we'll have to work on that. Got a couple weeks of work on that there for the tankard at the Scotties.
Chuck and Sean seem to like us.
Yeah.
Our broadcast guys. They're okay with us.
Yeah, they've done a fine job. Of course, we talked about the tournament organizers. What about those guys? You know,
Fantastic.
best in the biz. Great to work with them and top-notch guys. Thanks, Chuck Calder and Sean Senator, for their great work here for the championships. Just trying to hit and roll out. And we do, so.
She didn't play that one as tight as I thought she would. That just got the side of it. Wow.
Blank once again here, 9. Jones heading home with the hammer here in 10. So pretty well for the team Notting They got to take advantage here of the free guard zone and kind of hope for a miss. That's pretty well the only thing that's they can do here. As the Jones foursome are hoping to run Team Notting out of rocks here in the 10th.
So this is where these front end rocks are so important when you need to steal. They got to get this one over.
They've done a fantastic job stealing at these championships, Team Notting, but here this afternoon they have stolen nothing, and this don't help. Hoggity hog line.
No, and I'm not sure. Like Carrie's a good lead. She's I don't know if she's just throwing those a little light. You try to throw sweeper's weight. Like you kind of try and throw those high guards like they're going to be a foot short of the line and let your sweepers take them. But they were sweeping that pretty much the whole way, and you get another chance though. You get a second one.
Lindsay Burgess with the Dan Hobson special just throws it towards the back and out.
Just can't help but, you know, it lets Team Jones off the hook a little bit when you. Kaylee doesn't look so happy, shaking her head a little bit. It's frustrating. There's no question.
Yeah, the thing is that you know, they played very well, and against other teams, you know, has given them a run for their money, and you know, 2 wins over Calissa Daly, 10-4, 7-5, and an 11-9 win over Callie Moore, and Moore's proven right now she's no slouch, because Moore got down by 4 to this team and fought back and only lost by 3. So as I said, a really good championship here for the Notting team out of the Bridgewater Curling Club, but they just haven't been able to beat this juggernaut known as the Caitlin Jones foursome here out of the Halifax Curling Club.
No, and then that second guard there slipping, and it's so sensitive too. The difference between a kick out for a high guard and a kick out for a draw is not that different, and it's what you say is a touch game, right, for curling. And when the speed is fast, it really shows that, and that's just a little bit of a struggle there with the adjustment. And Team Jones actually wants to peel this out. They do not want any stones in play. They don't want to hit and stay. They want to hit and roll out on everything. Because if there's no score this end, they win.
Yep, they're just in the business of counting down the rocks left.
Really puts the pressure on Team Notting. They just have to keep trying to make a guard. All they need is one miss. It becomes very easy in the 10th end or an extra end. You know exactly what the other team is going to do. You know what their goal is. You know what their type of shots they're going to play.
And you mentioned about the struggles there of Carrie Wellman there with the hog and the second one coming deep. It eliminates Jones having to use that really finesse shot, the tough tick shot, to try to open things up.
Yes. Yeah.
So now you basically took that out of play as well with those struggles there of the lead rocks.
It's really something that they can learn and grow on, and it's adjustment. It's getting used to it. It's a lot of pressure, and you're trying so hard to make that high guard, and you throw it 3 feet too light, and the sweepers can't sweep it. It stops a foot short of the line. The sweepers got it 2 extra feet, but they didn't get it 3 extra feet.
As this one comes down, there's 5 rocks remaining here for Team Notting. Jones foursome, they got 2 in the 5th, and then had a blank in 6, and Notting got 2 in the 7th. And since then, Jones has shut the door and prevented any offensive chances here or any potential steals for Notting here in 8, number 9. And right now, this N10 looks like the way that 9 and 8 have gone so far.
It's interesting, too, from watching the first, like the A qualifier for these teams. It was a tight game up until the score got broken open. And this one kind of was the opposite. It was all Jones at the beginning. And really, like, Team Notting has brought up their level of play in the second half of this game. Didn't let themselves, beat themselves up over being down in points. They're still talking. They're still, you can't just count yourselves out. And I don't think they've done that. They've been working hard, especially in the second half of this game, to keep things tight, and it's 5-4.
Yeah, the game management for both of these teams has been fantastic, and I say game management because, of course, we said about the 38 minutes of thinking time. They're doing well. I mean, the Team Jones team still have 12 minutes left, and the Notting team is under 10, and here we are into the third stones here in the 10th. So it's moved along pretty quickly.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Sheet E, and Sheet E's times are, both teams have less, and they're only playing the 9th end, and they still have good time management. They'll have lots to play 10 in, so it's I think that means that people are being decisive and they're ready to throw their shots, and pace of game is something that can beat a team down too if you feel like the other team is slow, and
of course
can get to you.
Of course, having 4 blanks is also does that.
Yeah, but the blanks, I mean, the first end was a blank all day, and then 9 was not too complicated, and neither was 8. But even the 6, like, that was one where there were some rocks in play. Actually, most of even the 8th too. Like, there have been rocks in play. It just the blank materializes partway through the end. But this one, Team Jones, they'll just keep hitting. Once the shots become a no-brainer, it really saves time. So this end is going pretty quick. And I think we have handshakes on Sheet B. I would assume, based on the score, that Team Moore took that one.
Yeah, 2 in the 4 and 3 in the 7th will get a complete score here. Well, Team Moore will keep their curling hopes alive here at the championships. And guard there by Team Notting. Heads down all for both the Burgess ladies, Lindsay and Carly, here on the throw by Kristen Clark from Rosette Yellowstone, and into Skip Rocks. And of course, if you're trying to steal, these last 2 here for Kaylee Notting have to be in the house, and they have to count to even stand a chance.
And Team Jones isn't making, they have not missed those. It's not easy to make those peels time after time. They've made all of them this end.
Pretty well since the 7th end on, Jones has really not given Notting any real chances here. So, as we mentioned, we're in the Skip Rocks here in 10. Notting with 2 left. And they have to go here as Wellman and Chase on here.
They're trying to leave this one higher, just a different spot. Maybe get a miss. This is the one that didn't have to be in the rings.
Oh, it didn't have to be?
No, I mean, to steal one,
yeah,
you need 1 point. So
yeah,
you're going to put the next one in and hope for a wide open miss, if assuming this shot is made. Has to be in play. Yes.
But you said there's like different strategies with this, and
Different strategies is a way to nicely put. You don't have a lot of options, so just
Well, exactly.
try and put it
It's
in a
like-
spot where someone's going to miss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is peeled. And you've seen that look pretty well tells it all.
I'd put this. I think they're going to put this in the spot where I would recommend.
I think they'll call their final timeout, and why not?
The only time I've ever seen Caitlin Jones miss is in that spot right where Caitlin Nodding is indicating. And she didn't miss totally. She hit and rolled out. But it was certainly the closest to a straight flash. And that's what you need here. You need the other skip to completely, miss the rock. So you got to put it in the spot where you think you have the highest chance of that. And this, that's why they're calling a timeout here. Scott's been watching, and maybe he'll say the same thing. See if we can hear.
You'll see him coming to your picture momentarily. And also in the picture right now, Andrew Atherton.
They're so quiet. I can't hear anything. That's all right. We know what they're saying. Where do you think she's been missing?
This is where your lip reading skills come to.
Oh yeah, don't bank on that.
Well, the reason why I thought the last one should come in, you got to go for the steel win, bring it in. But if you're going to just go for the one, then you got to go to the guard. But this one definitely has to come into the ring.
This a steal of 2. I mean, you see, there's steals of 3s that happen, or 2 or more points. But when the other team knows you're trying to steal and is actively trying to prevent you from stealing, it's a very low chance of stealing anything more than a single.
And this is where coaching comes in. Andrew Atherton has probably not only watched his team play, but seen what this Notting team has done and how well they've been at dealing with steals, and basically have really taken that off the plate here for them in this game. And
yep, they would have talked about that before the game. You've seen a fairly open play. I don't think Team Jones put up any corner guards, and they scored multiple points. So that leads me to think that they were trying to keep things clean, and it just comes down to execution. This one has to be in the rings. It's curling a lot.
It is curling. They're going to have to really get Wellman and Chase on to scrub and get it there. It has to be in the rings if it comes up short. And it will come up short, and that will be your final here. 5-4. Caitlin Jones over Kaylee Notting. And with that, Jones moves to 4-0, and Notting drops to 3-2. As the fans there of the Caitlin Jones foursome, which is Lindsay Burgess, Carly Burgess, Kristen Clark, and Caitlin Jones, coached by Andrew Atherton, defeat the Kaylee Notting foursome of Carrie Wellman, Alexis Chason, Caitlin Notting, Kaylee Notting, and coached by Scott Notting out of the Bridgewater Curling Club. So, well, it was actually nice that that this game went the full distance, I guess you could say, because these teams met earlier in the draw, and it was 10-3. But that didn't really indicate how close that game was. This one's even closer, and it went the full distance. But kudos to both teams on a well-played game, wouldn't you say there, Selena?
Absolutely. Really a pleasure to watch both teams, and I think we'll have some more great games coming up. Next one's at 2:30.
Yep. All right, so we want to thank our viewers here for watching here on Bell 5 TV1's coverage of the 2017 AMJ Campbell Nova Scotia Junior Curling Championships. So for my producer, Chuck Calder, and my broadcast colleague, Selena Thompson, thank you for watching Bell 5 TV1's coverage here of the Nova Scotia.